200 million were included in the SGAB for 2025. These projects as appearing in the SGAB are listed Annex J hereof. However, Senator Jinggoy called me again for the difference of 300 million to complete the 1 billion project value that was requested. During the BICAM, projects worth 750 million were again included in the projects to eventually form part of the 2025 GAA. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as Annex K. The total budget for the projects which appeared in the 2025 GAA is approximately 1.45 billion, more or less. After Engineer Opulencia collected the 25% commitment, approximately 360 million, and delivered the same to Diamond Hotel in Manila. Thereafter, I tasked my driver to deliver the boxes to Sen Jinggoy at the Artiaga building in San Juan City. Senator Jinggoy personally confirmed to me his receipt of the commitment and thanked me for the same. During the 2024 budget hearing for 2025 GAA, Engineer Alcantara informed me that Senator Jinggoy gave him funding amounting to 355 million for Bulacan First DEO and 500 million from other districts in Bulacan and requested that he, Engineer Alcantara, prepare lists of projects. The said projects are enumerated in a list here to attach as annexes L and L-1 respectively. Later on, sometime in the first quarter of 2025, Senator Jinggoy asked me to get the 25% commitment for the aforesaid list of projects from Engineer Alcantara. Engineer Alcantara then delivered to me the 25% commitment, approximately 213 million, which I delivered to Senator Jinggoy at the Artiaga building in San Juan City. Senator Grace Poe. Sometime third quarter of 2024, J.Y. De La Rosa, a staff of Senator Grace Poe, requested Sec Bonoan through me if Senator Grace Poe can be accommodated in the DPW's NEP. Sec Bonoan told me there is a 500 million for Senator Grace Poe and instructed me to ask the Senator for a list of projects. J.Y. De La Rosa told me to coordinate the matter with Mrs. Patron, a contractor. Mrs. Patron told me to prepare the list. Upon my instructions, Engineer Gerard Opulencia submitted a consolidated list of the following projects, 1 in Laguna and 3 in NCR. These projects are indicated in the list here to attach as Annex M. Thereafter, the list of projects was included in the NEP by Sec Bonoan through Usec Cabral. Later on, the said projects appeared in the GAA for 2025. There was a 20% commitment collected for Senator Grace Poe. Mrs. Patron, a contractor, collected the commitment for Sen Grace Poe at Diamond Hotel from one of my aides. Congresswoman Mary Mitzi Kahayan Uy. There were projects released in Congresswoman Kahayan Uy's congressional district, which I facilitated. I submitted projects being proposed by her to proponents for funding, the details of which I am still verifying and confirming at the moment. Congressman Flerida Robes. There were also projects released in Congresswoman Flerida Robes' congressional district, which I facilitated. I submitted projects being proposed by her to proponents for funding, the details of which I am still verifying and confirming at the moment. Congressman Zaldico. In addition to my statements in my affidavit dated 25 of September 2025, I was told by Engineer Alcantara, Congressman Zaldi would from time to time deal also with Engineers Gerard Pacanan, Gerard Opulencia, and Danny Villa. There were times Engineer Gerard Pacanan and Gerard Opulencia would give me certain amounts, supposedly from Congressman Zaldico. Usec Tri-Give Olevar of David. In addition to my statements in my affidavit dated 25 of September 2025, I wish to add that I have known Usec Tri-Give as early as 2010 when he was still a staff of Senator Bong Revilla. He is a common figure in budget deliberation hearings and by reason of which I had interacted with him on multiple occasions. Usec Tri-Give then worked under the office of Senator Edgardo Angara and then later worked under the office of Senator Sani Angara. When Senator Sani Angara became a chairman of finance, Usec Tri-Give and I would have several interactions as part of our work in budget preparations. When Senator Revilla was incarcerated with Senator Jinggoy Estrada, Usec, Trigive, and I would frequently call each other so we can help look after the welfare of concerns of Senator Revilla appropriations, supposedly for the Office of the Executive Secretary. Thereafter, DPWH received a special allotment release order, which included projects worth 2.85 billion. The contract IDs for the projects worth 2.85 billion covered by the said SARO can be secured from the records of DPWH Regional Office for Region 3 and the 1st District Engineering Office of Bulacan. Moreover, in the program appropriate allocation for 2025, there could have been an additional 12 billion more or less funding, which I am verifying and confirming at the moment. DPWH Secretary Mark Villar and Usec Cabral. I was appointed Assistant Secretary of DPWH by former President Rodrigo Duterte in 2016 during the term of DPWH Secretary Mark Villar. As Assistant Secretary for Operations, I was assigned over the Visayas regions. While I was Assistant Secretary for Operations, I was introduced to Carlo Aguilar, a cousin of Sec Mark Villar. Usec Cabral was already the Undersecretary for Planning Service when I became Assistant Secretary. As Undersecretary for Planning Service, Usec Cabral was working closely with Sec Mark Villar for the allocation, listing, and budgeting of all the DPWH infrastructure projects. While I was Assistant Secretary, I was also later designated as Chairman of the Central Bids and Awards Committee, Central BAC. In the later part of 2017, I was promoted to Undersecretary of the DPWH during the incumbency of Senator Mark Villar and took my oath of office as Undersecretary before him. In the first quarter of 2018, I was designated as Undersecretary for Operations for NCR, 4B, and the 3 Visayas regions. Upon my request, I was replaced as Chairman of Central BAC sometime in February 2020 because of political intrigues, as I was reportedly siding with then City of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, who was vocal against then President Rodrigo Duterte. All of this time, the funding of all projects was cleared through Usec Cabral for approval by Sec Mark Villar. From time to time, Usec Cabral would ask me to submit detailed list of projects with regards to lump sum fund allocations of DPWH, which list she sometimes would approve herself or forward to Sec Mark Villar for approval. Among others, this included EDSA and other major roads, project allocations, maintenance of creeks and waterways, etc. The commission for these approved projects was 10% and divided as follows: 50% to Carlo Aguilar, presumably for Sec Mark Villar, 25% Usec Cabral, 25% for myself. Undersecretary Maria Catalina E. Cabral. As a general rule, with very little exceptions, it is Usec Maria Catalina Cabral, with the imprimatur of Secretary Mark Villar, and later continued by Sec Manny Bonoan, who had control at the DPWH level to remove, include, add, deduct, or modify insertions of items in the NEP for infrastructure or those pertaining to DPWH. Usec Cabral would tell me that she would communicate and meet legislators to inform them of the amount of their allocations and ask them for titles of projects that they want to include in the DPWH budget. In a matrix of process flow that I have prepared, which I am attaching here to as Annex N, Usec Cabral has total influence and authority in preparing and finalizing the NEP for infrastructure. On multiple occasions, I personally delivered and also caused to be delivered cash to Usec Cabral at her house at Tatalon, Quezon City, and other places. DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan. DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan is a long-time DPWH official who has held top positions through different administrations. I look up to Sec Bonoan and consider him as a mentor. I treasure his guidance and friendship over the years. Prior to Sec Bonoan's assumption as Secretary of DPWH, I was the Undersecretary for Operations and Planning for NCR, Visayas, having assumed the said position in 2018. Unlike during the time of Sec Mark Villar, when I was not given much task, even removed as back chairman, and had very limited operational functions during the COVID pandemic period, Sec Bunoan entrusted me with more operational functions and let me work more closely with Usec Cabral. Sometime in 2022, Sec Bunoan directed me to submit a list of projects for possible inclusion in the NEP for fiscal year 2023 worth around 450 million. Without question and delay, I asked Bulacan First DEO for a list of projects for funding. Thereafter, Engineer Alcantara submitted to me a list of projects for funding under the NEP. Those projects are indicated in the list here to attach as Annex O. In compliance with this order, I forwarded the list to Sec Bunoan. He told me that Undersecretary for Planning Maria Catalina Cati Cabral shall facilitate and ensure the inclusion of these projects in the NEP. Engineer Alcantara gave the 10% of the value of the projects. Similarly, in 2023, Sec Bunoan directed me to submit a list of projects for possible inclusion in the NEP for fiscal year 2024 worth around 150 million. Again, without question and delay, I asked Bulacan First DEO for a list of projects for funding. Thereafter, Engineer Alcantara submitted to me a list of projects for funding under the NEP. Those projects are indicated in the list here to attach as Annex P. In compliance with this order, I forwarded the list to Sec Bunoan. In compliance with this order, I forwarded the list to Sec Bunoan. Sec Bunoan said that Usec Cabral shall again facilitate and ensure the inclusion of these projects in the NEP. Engineer Alcantara gave 15% of the value of the projects. Also in the year 2024, Sec Bunoan also directed me to submit a list of projects for possible inclusion in the NEP for fiscal year 2025 for the amount of 900 million. I asked Bulacan First DEO for a list of projects for funding. Thereafter, Engineer Alcantara submitted to me a list of projects for funding under the NEP. Those projects are indicated in the list here to attach as Annex Q. In compliance with this order, I forwarded the list to Sec Bunoan. Sec Bunoan said that Usec Cabral shall again facilitate and ensure the inclusion of these projects in the NEP. Engineer Alcantara gave 20% of the value of the projects. With respect to the commitments collected by Engineer Alcantara narrated above, Secretary Bunoan and I received a percentage. In many instances during budget deliberations, I was tasked by Sec Bunoan to talk to legislators over their funding and other concerns, and to forward these concerns to Usec Cabral for action and resolution. Sec Bunoan and Usec Cabral. Every year, including years 2023, 2024 and 2025, Usec Cati Cabral apportions the budget ceiling for the DPWH's allocable NEP among the districts according to the endorsed programs, activities, and projects. PAPs. Although she would make it appear that 100% allocable NEP had been apportioned, Usec Cati Cabral would reserve a substantial percentage of that allocable NEP for her and Sec Bunoan's preferred projects. Sec Manny Bunoan would from time to time ask me to take charge of part of his own reserve allocations. The value of the projects that I handled for Sec Bunoan was at least 5 billion per annum for the years 2023, 2024, and 2025 with an average of 15% commitment. Of this 15% average commitment, Sec Bunoan 75% usually would give of this 15% average commitment, Sec Bunoan 75% usually would give me 25% of the commitment, with the rest of the commitment shared between him and Usec Cati Cabral. Usec Cati Cabral herself took charge of her own reserve allocations. Once again, I humbly reserve the right to submit another supplementary affidavit if warranted in the premises. I attest to the truth of the foregoing statements based on my personal knowledge and authentic records. Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Chairman, Senator Erwin Tulfo, you may reclaim your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Aside from the tables attached as annexes, may iba ka pa bang ebidensya na magpapatunay po sa inyong sinumpaang salaysay?
Mr. Chair, I would of course, I may submit additional documents po pagka po na retrieve from the records. Meron po.
Alright. Mr. Chair, babalikan ko po si Engineer Bernardo. Ang tanong ko lamang po at tanong ng mga kababayan natin, napapansin po kasi nila na isa-isa ng mga opisyal, dating opisyal sa DPWH, maging ang ilang mambabatas, ay tumatakbo po sa ibang bansa. How do we stop this flight, Mr. Chair? Kasi baka darating po ang araw, wala na po tayong maimbestigahan, wala na po mapapanagot dahil lahat po sila ay nasa ibayong dagat na. Paano po yun, Mr. Chair? Do we have any plans? Do we have any actions para, I know, Mr. Chair, hindi natin pwedeng pigilan po yan dahil yan po ay karapatan naman nila. Pero dahil may investigasyon po nangyayari, ito po yung accountability, Mr. Chair.
You may address your question to the DOJ representative. I think the Prosecutor General, Richard Padulyon, is here. Kindly
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I believe that while we want all of these personalities who are involved or mentioned in the investigations to just stay in the country during the course of the investigations, we cannot at this time, Mr. Chair, prevent them from traveling because what we can only issue as far as the Department of Justice is a lookout bulletin. A lookout bulletin operates only to check on the records of the passenger who would want to leave, but it would not prevent them from being able to leave the country. There is no legal impediment for them to leave because it would be violative of their constitutional right. However, if I may be bold enough to suggest, Mr. Chair, in answer to the question of the good senator, yes, there are investigations which are being undertaken at this time, and while I understand that cancellation of passports can only be done if, for example, there are cases which are already filed, and this can only be done through the courts. I believe that representations can probably be made by the investigating bodies with the executive branch, that would be the Department of Foreign Affairs, to possibly hold or possibly cancel passports of those who are undertaking or undergoing investigations, Mr. Chair.
Linawin ko lang, Mr. Chair, parang pwede lang yatang kanselahin ang mga passports ng mga ito kapag sila po'y nakasuhan na. Pero what I'm talking about, yung hindi pa po nakakasuhan. Kasi it is not enough, yung lookout bulletin, wala naman hong saysay yun eh. Kahit na nandoon siya sa lookout bulletin, pwede niya sabihin, wala pa naman ho akong kaso. The only way to stop that person is kung may hold departure order, which we know kung may kaso na. So, ano hong pwede bukod dyan na sinasabi sa lookout bulletin? Are you suggesting na the DFA kanselahin ang passport? But can we do that? Wala pa naman po silang kaso and it will violate their constitutional rights.
I understand, Mr. Chair, if I may, sir, answer the question. I agree with you totally that there is no basis to cancel the passports up until the time that there are cases which are filed as against them and there are representations or there's an order issued by the court allowing for the cancellation. But the question earlier was with respect to what can be done at this time while there are no cases which have been filed. The only solution that I can find for this particular predicament, Mr. Chair, is for us to fast-track the filing of the cases or for cases to be fast-tracked so far as investigations are concerned before the Office of the Secretary of Justice and before the Office of the Ombudsman. And then and only then, once these cases are filed in court and warrants are issued, can we move for the cancellation of the passports. In the meantime, the suggestion that I made earlier was just a suggestion, Mr. Chair, if only to address the concern of what can be done in the meantime when there are no cases yet which are filed in court.
Kailan po kayo magpa-file ng mga kaso? Kailan po natin makikita na ang DOJ ay magsasampa na po ng kaso?
Cases are already being investigated right now, Mr. Chair. There are 5 cases for flood control projects, ghost projects, which are undergoing preliminary investigation at the moment. There are several cases also which are undergoing evaluation by the Department of Justice. I believe there are also cases which are also pending before the Office of the Ombudsman, Mr. Chair. We expect to terminate the preliminary investigation of the first 5 cases probably within the first week of December or by the middle of December, sir.
To know kung ito po mga cases that will be filed by the DOJ ay mga officials lang po ito ng DPWH, former officials and contractors. Meron po bang kasamang mga politiko na rito?
As of this time, Mr. Chair, as far as the first 5 cases which are undergoing investigation, it involves only officials of the DPWH, particularly those in District 1 in Bulacan, sir.
All right. My next question is, Mr. Chair, alam ko sinusundan nyo rin po at ano na ho nangyari? I don't know if you can answer this, Attorney Fadulion, kayo po sa DOJ. Nasaan na po yung ating witness na si Ginoong Guteza? Because yung kanya pong testimony ay napakalaki po. Lahat po tayo nagimbal dito. So we want to find out, is he okay? Where is he at? Is he still alive? Is he dead? Ano ho nangyari?
Mr. Chair, Department of Justice would not be in any position to ascertain the whereabouts of Mr. Guteza. As far as we know, he did testify here in the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, but the Department of Justice never had any interaction with him after that particular testimony. There was no representation made as to his interest in being covered by the program or being granted any protection. And we know for a fact that the intervention by the Witness Protection Program is something which is done voluntarily by the one who is making the application. Inasmuch as there was no application made, we have not had, since the time of his testimony here before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, any interaction with Mr. Guteza. So we would not be in a position to say where he is right now or what his condition is, sir.
Mr. Chair, may I ask the Secretariat if we sent out subpoena or invitation to Mr. Guteza? Because I'm concerned po. I mean, he made a lot of revelations here during the last meeting when he was here. So we want to find out at gusto ho natin siyang tanungin, where did you get all this information? Pero tila wala ho siya. Now, did we invite him?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman. We sent an invitation to his known address, nakalagay sa kanyang driver's license sa Taguig. Pero even when the investigation was conducted by the executive judge, wala na po siya doon sa kanyang last known address. So what we did in the Blue Ribbon Committee, we sought the assistance of the Honorable Marcoleta kung sakaling meron siyang contact o may sa darating na panahon magkakaroon siya ng contact ay tulungan niya tayo na malocate at para makapag-testify na muli si Technical Sergeant Guteza. So ang sagot po ni Honorable Marcoleta, wala rin po siyang contact kay Orly Guteza.
Isa pang katanungan dyan, Mr. Chair, at nagtatanong po yung mga kababayan ho natin, ano po ang mangyayari ngayon sa kanyang salaysay? Are we going to submit it dahil kung tayo po ay mag-wind down na dito po sa ating investigation, are we going to submit it to ICI, Mr. Chair?
The sinumpang salaysay remains valid as far as the Blue Ribbon Committee is concerned. Nagkaroon lang naman siya ng problema doon sa kanyang pagkanotaryo. And hindi naman po siya sumipot sa DOJ, sa Ombudsman, even sa ICI. So wala po tayong magagawa doon. But as far as the committee is concerned, pag tayo po ay nag-submit ng ating committee report, yung kanyang sinumpaan sa salaysay, as I mentioned earlier, remains valid kasi yun naman ay sinumpaan niya ng bukod dito sa harapan ng komite.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now I direct my question to Usec Bernardo. Usec Bernardo, or Engineer Bernardo. Common practice po ang bentahan ng mga pondo sa lower house. Alam po natin yan. Alam po ninyo yan. Ikaw po ba ay naalok na rin ng pondo for flood control ng mga mambabatas? I know you've been talking about senators, may mga congressman, pero ikaw po ba ay nabentahan na ng pondo para sa flood control?
Mr. Chair, as far as I can recall, I cannot remember any time na bentahan po ako niyan sapagkat I think the legislators in the lower house have their own way of dealing with projects, especially to the district engineers and contractors.
So, sa district engineer po ang nagkakaroon ng transaction between the lawmaker at saka yung district engineer. Tama po ba ang pagkaintindi ko?
Yes po, Mr. Chair. As far as I know po, puro ganun po.
Alright. Walk us through, Engineer Bernardo. Pag nagbaba na po ng pondo ng budget ang isang politiko, congressman man yan, sa district, ano po ang nangyayari? Siya rin po ba, tama po ba na siya rin po ang nagsasabi, nagdidictate, ito ang kontratista na gusto kong panalunin mo because siya yung kontratista ang magbibigay ng komisyon kay congressman o sa politiko. Tama po ba yan? Can you walk us through after na ibaba yung pondo ng mambabatas doon sa distrito? What is happening? And walk us through hanggang sa makuha ng politiko yung kanyang komisyon or kickback.
Mr. Chair, I'm very sorry to be off the rec po sa ganyang mga proseso sapagkat ang nagkakausap lang po talaga dyan ay ang mga congressmen or legislators sa lower house saka po district engineer o yung mga contractor. Hindi po ako doon sa kanilang sistema doon kung paano. Ba't naririnig ko pong ganun talaga? Yun po.
Alright, panghuling na katalungan na lang po sa inyo, Usec Bernardo, bago po ako lumipat dito kay Engineer Alcantara. Nabanggit niyo po ang Office of the Executive Secretary na kasama din po dito sa flood control. Ewan ko bakit to sila may flood control. Ang tanong ko po, sino sa Office of the Executive Secretary ang kausap po ninyo? Can you name names?
Mr. Chair, as I've earlier na sinabi ko po, ay si Trigib Olivar po ang kausap ko. Siya lang po nagsabi sa akin nun.
Pero hindi po siya sa Office of the Executive Secretary, Engineer Bernardo. Siya po, the last na chinek ko.
Wala po, Mr. Chair.
Tatlo, apat na maglalaban-laban para kunwari. Pero mananalo at mananalo yung contractor ng